Wednesday's slate was headlined by a dominant Red Sox blowout, as Boston's Peyton Toll struck out 14 in a lopsided 13-1 win that extended their streak to 8 straight. But from coast to coast there were home runs, milestone streaks, and tight finishes all over the board. The Mets used a balanced night to the plate to escape Pittsburgh with a 6-4 win over the Pirates. Marcus Semien got things going with a solo home run, while A.J. Ewing turned in the offensive highlight of the game, going 3 for 4, a multi-hit line that also lands him among the day's top fantasy performances. New York's speed was on full display too, with Luis Torrens, Carson Bench, Francisco Lindor, and Ewing himself all swiping a bag, putting real pressure on Pittsburgh's battery all night. On the mound, Zach Thornton was outstanding in the win, working 5 scoreless innings with 3 strikeouts to keep the Pirates off balance. Pittsburgh didn't go quietly. Brian Reynolds, Spencer Horwitz, Ronnie Simon, Brandon Lowe, Jared Trillo, Nick Gonzalez, and Rafael Flores Jr. all reached base with hits, and the Pirates clawed to within 2 runs by the final outs. But between Semien's power, Ewing's big night at the plate, New York's active running game, and Thornton's shutdown start, the Mets had more than enough to leave PNC Park with the win. Toronto held off Philadelphia in a slugfest at Citizens Bank Park, escaping with a 5-4 win despite a 2-hour rain delay. Andrés Giménez and Josh Smith both went deep for the Blue Jays, with Smith turning in the game's best line at 3 for 4 with an RBI, a multi-hit night that stands out as one of today's top fantasy performances. Lazaro Estrada picked up the win out of the bullpen, and Tyler Rogers slammed the door with a clean save to close it out. Nathan Lukes, George Springer, and Jesus Sanchez also chipped in hits for Toronto, while Josh Smith added a stolen base to round out a complete game at the plate. Philadelphia fought back behind Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, and Kyle Schwarber, all of whom collected hits, and Justin Crawford swiped a bag of his own, but the Phillies couldn't quite close the gap. It was a tight, back-and-forth affair that Toronto's power and bullpen ultimately decided. Washington and Cincinnati combined for 5 home runs in a slugfest that the Nationals came out on top of, 5-3. Dalen Lyle and Harry Ford both went deep for Washington, while Ellie De La Cruz, Matt McLain, and Eugenio Suarez each homered for the Reds, a game that saw the ball leave the yard early and often. But the real story was Cade Cavalli, who was dominant on the mound, striking out 8 over 6 innings to pick up the win and keep Cincinnati's power surge from doing more damage. Clayton Beeter slammed the door with a clean save to lock it down. Brady House, C.J. Abrams, Jose Tina, and Jacob Young also collected hits for the Nationals in the win. Cincinnati got a stolen base from Novi Mart and hits from Kebrian Hayes and Hector Rodriguez, but the Reds' 3 solo shots weren't enough to overcome Cavalli's strikeout clinic and Washington's own pair of homers. A wild, homer-happy night that ultimately came down to which starter could miss more bats, and that was Cavalli. The Yankees edged the Braves 3-2 in a tight one at Yankee Stadium, despite Atlanta getting the long ball from 2 of its biggest bats. Matt Olson and Austin Riley both homered for the Braves, and starter Tyler Mahle was brilliant on the mound, striking out 9 over 6 innings, but it wasn't enough to hold off New York. David Bednar picked up the win for the Yankees with a scoreless inning of relief. Heliot Ramos, Ryan McMahon, Austin Wells, Ben Rice, George Lombard Jr., and Luis Garcia Jr. all collected hits to help New York piece together enough offense to get past Mahle's strikeout-heavy outing. Atlanta got hits from Mauricio Dubon, Drake Baldwin, and Ronald Acuna Jr. to go with the 2 homers, but it added up to just 2 runs against a Yankees bullpen that held the line. A well-pitched, low-scoring battle that New York found a way to win in the late innings. The day's most lopsided result, the Red Sox blew out the Athletics 13-1 at Fenway Park, and it was Peyton Toll who stole the show on the mound, striking out an eye-popping 14 batters over 6 innings to pick up the win. Raymond Burgos closed it out with a 3-inning save, and Jarren Duran provided the offensive fireworks with a home run in Boston's lineup, which got hits up and down the order from Anthony Segler, Will Abreu, Andrew Monasterio, Jake Rogers, Caleb Durbin, Nick Sagard, Set and Rafaela, and Masataka Yoshida. This win was also Boston's 8th straight, a red-hot stretch that shows no signs of slowing down. For Oakland, it was the exact opposite story. The loss extended the Athletics' losing streak to 8 straight games, and even Tyler Soderstrom's solo home run couldn't offset a lineup that managed little else against Boston's pitching. With Toll's 14 strikeouts headlining a dominant, complete team performance and the Red Sox riding their longest winning streak of the stretch, this was the clearest statement game of the night, a total mismatch from the opening pitch. The Angels held on for a 4-3 win over the Marlins in Miami, getting home runs from Mike Trout and Nolan Arenado to build the cushion they'd ultimately need. Sean Anderson picked up the win in relief, and Jose Furman closed things out with a save. But the individual highlight of the night belonged to Miami's Kyle Stowers, who went a perfect 4 for 4 with 2 RBIs, one of the best individual lines of the day and a standout multi-hit performance for fantasy managers. Esteury Ruiz, Jacob Marcy, Javier Sonoja, Addiston Ramirez, and Leo Jimenez also had hits for the Marlins as they pushed the Angels the whole way. Los Angeles got additional offense from Oswald Peraza, Moises Ballesteros, Josh Lowe, and Tyler Heineman to support Trout and Shanwell's power. Despite Stowers' huge night at the plate, Miami came up just short, falling 4-3 in a game that came down to the final outs. Cleveland rolled to an 8-2 win over the White Sox, powered by a dominant start from Parker Messick, who struck out 8 over 7 innings to pick up the win. Stephen Kwan headlined the offense, going 3 for 5 with an RBI, a multi-hit performance that lands him among the day's top fantasy notables, and he added a home run to the mix along with Angel Martinez. Jose Ramirez chipped in a stolen base and a hit as part of Cleveland's balanced attack, with Chase DeLauter, Austin Hedges, and Rhys Hoskins also reaching base. Chicago wasn't without its own power. Munetaka Murakami and Braden Montgomery both went deep for the White Sox, and Luis Angel Acuna, Randall Grichuk, Chase Maydroth, and Edgar Quero all had hits, but it wasn't nearly enough to keep pace with Messick and Cleveland's offense. With 4 combined home runs and a dominant strikeout outing from Messick, this one was well in hand for the Guardians by the middle innings. Minnesota outlasted Milwaukee in a high-scoring affair, winning 8-6 behind a huge night from Josh Bell, who went 4 for 5 with 3 RBIs and a home run to lead the Twins' offense. Kalen Culpepper also went deep for Minnesota, and Zebby Matthews earned the win despite allowing 3 runs over 5 innings, with Yoendrys Gomez locking things down for the save. Austin Martin added a stolen base, while Cody Clemens, Ryan Jeffers, Ryan Cradler, Royce Lewis, and Luke Keeschall all contributed hits to a deep Twins lineup. Milwaukee didn't go down easily. Jackson Chourio hit a home run of his own, and Christian Yelich, Garrett Mitchell, David Hamilton, Bryce Turang, and Luis Lara all had hits as the Brewers tried to claw back. But Bell's monster 4-hit, 3 RBI night proved to be the difference as Minnesota held on for the road win. Cubs topped the Royals 6-4 in Kansas City behind a strong outing from Kevin Gausman, who worked 7 innings and allowed just 2 earned runs while striking out 4 to earn the win. Jacob Webb closed it out with a save, and Pedro Ramirez provided pop with a home run for Chicago. Pete Crow Armstrong swiped a bag to go with hits from Alex Bregman, Michael Busch, Carson Kelly, and Seiya Suzuki as the Cubs built enough of a cushion to hold off Kansas City. The Royals got a home run from Carter Jensen and hits from Tyler Talbert, Isaac Collins, Salvador Perez, Jack Caglianon, and Bobby Witt Jr. in the loss, but couldn't quite complete the comeback. Gausman's efficient, run-limiting start proved to be the difference as Chicago picked up the road win, a solid team effort for a Cubs club looking to build momentum away from home. Louis edged Colorado 3-2 in a tightly pitched game, with Kyle Leahy turning in a dazzling start, 8 strikeouts over 5 innings to pick up the win. Ivan Herrera provided the power with a home run, and Riley O'Brien slammed the door with a save. The Cardinals also ran wild on the bases, with Masson Wynn swiping 2 bags, a 2-steal game that stands out as one of the day's top fantasy performances, and Nathan Church adding one of his own. Jordan Walker and Jimmy Crooks also had hits for St. Louis and Wayne. Colorado's offense was led by Jake McCarty and TJ Rumfield, who both went 3 for 4, along with hits from Mickey Moniak, Willie Castro, and Jordan Beck, but the Rockies couldn't push enough runs across against Leahy and St. Louis bullpen. A well-pitched, low-scoring game decided by Herrera's homer and the Cardinals' speed on the bases. Texas edged Baltimore 2-1 in a pitcher's duel at home, despite a phenomenal outing from Orioles starter Shane Baz, who struck out 9 over 8 innings. Jock Pederson supplied the difference maker for the Rangers with a solo home run, and Tyler Alexander picked up the win in relief before Jacob Latz slammed the door with a 2-inning save. Brandon Nimmo and Elias Diaz also chipped in hits for Texas as the Rangers made the most of their limited opportunities against Baz. Baltimore got hits from Leody Taveras, Christian Franklin, Dylan Beavers, Carlos Narvaez, Colton Cowser, and Kobe Mayo, but couldn't find enough offense to back Baz's dominant start. Baz's 8 strong innings of work were ultimately wasted in a tough luck loss, as it was a tight, low-scoring affair that came down to one swing from Pederson. Arizona held off Los Angeles 4-3, getting home runs from Nolan Arenado and Ryan Waldschmidt to build the lead the Diamondbacks needed. Kevin Juve put the way out of the bullpen, and Arizona for the Dodgers on fifth all night. Lars Nootbaar, Gerald O. Perdomo, and Gabriel Moreno also collected hits for the Diamondbacks. The loss was a rough one for Los Angeles on multiple fronts. It's now 7 straight defeats for the Dodgers, and Freddie Freeman went hitless, snapping his 7-game hit streak in the process. Andy Pages provided the lone Dodgers home run, and Kyle Tucker, Hunter Fiducia, Tommy Edman, Mookie Betts, and Miguel Rojas all had hits, but it wasn't enough to end the skid. With the losing streak now at a full week and one of their best hitters cooling off at the same time, this is a game the Dodgers will want to forget quickly as they try to turn things around. Houston pulled away from San Diego for a 6-3 win, and Cam Smith was the headliner, blasting 2 home runs and driving in 2 runs while going 3 for 4. One of the best individual performances of the day and a standout multi-homer game for fantasy managers. Isaac Paredes also had a big night, going 3 for 5, and Brian Abreu picked up the win in relief before Josh Hader closed it out with a save. Christian Walker and Yordan Alvarez both extended their hitting streaks to 7 straight games with hits in this one, giving the Astros 3 players riding hot stretches at the plate. Jake Meyers and Jose Altuve also chipped in hits as part of a deep Houston lineup. San Diego got a home run from Fernando Tatis Jr. and Luis Campusano, Jackson Merrill, Sun Song, Manny Machado, and Jake Cronenworth all had hits, but the Padres couldn't overcome Smith's 2-homer explosion. Between Smith's power at the plate and Walker and Alvarez both keeping their hit streaks alive, this was a complete offensive showcase for the Astros in a road win. Tampa Bay edged Seattle 2-1 behind a brilliant start from Drew Rasmussen, who allowed no runs over 7 innings while striking out 8 to pick up the win. Johnny DeLuca and Jonathan Aranda both homered for the Rays, and Brian Baker locked down the save to close it out. Victor Mesa Jr. added a stolen base for Tampa Bay, with Liam Hicks also chipping in a hit. Seattle's lone offense came from Julio Rodriguez, who both homered and stole a base in the loss, with Cole Young and Colt Emerson also collecting hits. But Rasmussen's shutdown outing proved to be too much to overcome, as the Mariners managed just a single run despite Rodriguez's power-speed combination. A tightly contested pitchers' duel that Tampa Bay's rotation and bullpen closed out cleanly. San Francisco took care of business at home, beating Detroit 5-2 behind home runs from Rafael Devers and Willie Eddings. Adrian Hauser was solid in the win, allowing just 1 earned run over 5 innings with 4 strikeouts, and Dylan Smith closed it out with a save. Young-Hoo Lee and Oslevis Basabe also chipped in hits for the Giants as they built a comfortable cushion. Detroit's offense was led by Kevin McGonigal and Spencer Torkelson, who both went 3 for 4, with Zach McKinstry, Riley Green, Gleyber Torres, and Max Clark also collecting hits, but the Tigers couldn't dig out of the early hole. Devers and Adams' power at the plate was ultimately the difference maker as San Francisco cruised to a series win, a complete team effort that got contributions up and down the lineup. The Red Sox keep rolling, extending their winning streak to 8 games with Wednesday's blowout of Oakland, the same game that pushed the Athletics' losing streak to 8 straight in the opposite direction. Out west, the Dodgers skid hit 7 games in a row, and it came with an added sting. Freddie Freeman's 7-game hitting streak came to an end in that loss, leaving Los Angeles searching for answers on both fronts. Fantasy managers had plenty to work with on Wednesday. Cam Smith put up the headline stat line, launching 2 home runs for Houston, while Masson Wynn swiped 2 bags in St. Louis Wynn a great source of cheap speed. Kyle Stowers went perfect 4 for 4 with 2 RBIs for Miami, and Stephen Kwan matched him with a 3 for 5, 1 RBI night for Cleveland. Ewing also turned heads with a 3 for 4 game for the Mets, making him a name worth watching on the wire. That's a wrap on today's action. Hit subscribe so you never miss a recap, and we'll see you back here tomorrow for more MLB highlights.